Welcome back to the Manage to Win podcast. We are going to talk about garbage today. How do you like that? Before we get into it, remember, Habitly.com is our sponsor. You can learn soft skills there. Those are the habits that help you achieve more in less time, get along with people better, and really live a fulfilling life and have a great career. Check it out, Habitly.com. Great way to go as an individual or as a team. Today's guest is Matthew Bertulli. Now, he is the co-founder, CEO at Pela, okay, but we actually ended up talking more about Lomi, which is LOMI.com. And he is on a quest to save the planet from killing ourselves with all our garbage. How does that sound? You know what the biggest contributor to food garbage is? And by the way, food garbage is the third biggest contributor to bad environment. Okay. And what's the number one food that contributes to all this garbage? Well, if you want to find out, listen to the podcast. It's a great conversation, lots to learn here, some great things that Matthew and his team, over 100 people, are doing. So let's dive in. Matthew, I've got to ask you, you have not just one company, but two companies that are trying to deal with all the garbage on the planet, or at least a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't know where we start because there's so much garbage. So, where do you want to go? This is near and dear to my heart. I think I should be candid to you and the audience. And my wife and I got into the minimalist routine.
Oh, nice.
A year or two ago. And so I'm not telling you we're bare walls and everything's nothing. But boy, have we cut back, and looking at your background there, it looks like you're into that a bit yourself.
I'm in my actual office here at the HQ today. Yeah, I don't like stuff. It's a weird thing. I sell stuff for a living, but I don't like stuff. It's a strange place to be.
Well, isn't the statistic? I think my wife saw it the other day that there is 2.6 billion square feet of storage space in the U.S. for stuff we own and can't keep in our home and our office. And worldwide, and the reason I'm mentioning this, you can correct me, worldwide, the U.S. has 90% of the storage space.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
Even more junk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very weird, right? Like in North America, I'm in Canada, so I'm going to lump us with you guys because I think we're like behaviorally very similar. But you go to Europe and it's like they don't have the space that we do, right? Yeah. So like, I think a lot of it just comes down to that we have an abundance of land in North America. And like, if you go to like Italy or Spain, like these are small places comparatively, right? Like people to square kilometers or square miles. So yeah, man, I think we are, I always joke with everybody that, the two things that we all have in common is not death and taxes. It's actually death and garbage. Not everybody pays taxes. Contrary to what we're told, it's not true. And but we all throw stuff out, and we're really good at it, right? Like we're a consuming nation.
But it also seems that I think there's two other pieces to the puzzle. There's a lot more pieces, but two of the other pieces are, I think that generation after generation, without some really good training and development of parents. We have parents who are dysfunctional or suffering from PTSD from World War I or World War II or whatever it might be, or drugs or bad parents. And then it kind of just keeps moving on.
Yep.
So we have people with trauma. And then one of the ways that we're taught through our wounds and then also through all the marketing is, hey, if you buy this, you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
If you buy this, then you'll be good enough. Yeah. And so we buy all this garbage, and there's the dopamine rush, whether it's our phone, going beep or whatever, or it's buying stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew someone for a long time who would go out and buy stuff, bring it home, and then bring it back.
Yeah, just to get the rush.
Because she wanted the dopamine rush.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so common. You're not wrong. It's like shopping is, there's a joke, right? Like I spent my whole life in retail in some form or another. And retail therapy is a real thing, at least here, right?
It
so like
here.
We use stuff as a way to fill some kind of emotional void. And And more people are kind of waking up to this. Like I think the minimalist movement was a crack at it. There was years ago, there was like a zero waste movement. That was another crack at it. People are, I think that like, my bet is we're moving to a world where we're way more conscious about trash. And I think that because, one of my, they think that our thesis in business is that the topic of like climate change is very complicated, right? And like people don't understand what carbon footprint is. Like the science is complicated. The outcomes are simple, but the science is complicated. So we like trash because people understand it, right? Like everybody knows how much they throw out in a week. They see it every week. We literally take trash out to the curb every week. And it's a better place to engage like broader society and like moving us forward. And nobody argues with a cleaner planet. Like nobody. I have yet to meet a person who would like take the opposite side of the argument. Like maybe we shouldn't throw more crap in the ocean. Like I just haven't met someone who's like, no, it's a good thing. We should kill the fish. Like nobody says that. So, waste and trash, like this whole big topic, it's just a fun place to build.
But are people actually doing anything? Are they actually having different behaviors? So let me back it up a little bit. You got two companies that are trying to do something in this area.
Yes.
Why? What led you to do this?
I think like after I sold my last company, I really liked, so like I was the first investor in Pela, right? So we have Pela Case and we have Lomi. Pela Case came first, and that was like it is a material science business. So we made like my partner there, we made a compostable plastic alternative. So it's like made from corn, right? And then we made a phone case out of it. That business blew up because like we buy 1 billion smartphones a year and a lot of cases to go on them. I invested in the company and started getting really involved because I spend a lot of time outside personally. Like I'm a mountain biker, I backcountry ski, I grew up on lakes. I just love everything outdoors, right? So like for me, it was super personal. The capitalist in me, right? Like the entrepreneur, I just love the category. I like waste. I like waste management. I think it's like one of the best businesses in the world. I think it's way under innovated, right? It's complicated, and I like complicated things. Like I just like building where systems are complex. It means the barriers are higher, so it's way more difficult to do. But then the size of prize is much bigger, and it just means that like competition is also more interesting. I got a lot of reasons why I do this.
So do you have a recommendation, whether it's on one of your company websites or somewhere else? Like what is the top 1, 2, or 3 documentaries that if we want to see, the garbage in the middle of the ocean, or we want to see how bad this garbage issue is, you have, and maybe I'm putting you on the spot. I should have let you know in advance or something, but
the plastic in the ocean thing is like, man, there's a lot. That's a simple Google search. The one I would say that I really think is interesting for people would be like Kiss the Ground.
Kiss the Ground?
Yeah. So that's actually talking about the value of topsoil.
Yeah.
Right?
I like it.
And, most of us don't know, but like modern agriculture is really quite terrible for soil health. That's not a commonly held set of it's just not common knowledge. So Kiss the Ground is good because it starts to show you that we really need to start thinking longer term about how we take care of our soil. Our soil is responsible for feeding us.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We screw it up, like goodbye humans.
I'm vegan, so you're really speaking to me. So it's like, yeah. I mean, I have some fish, but
yeah, it is and the ocean thing is like, it's also another thing. Like if the ocean dies, we die. So these are two areas to me that are like obvious that what we have to do better. And it's hard to argue with both. Like I said, like it's actually most people, when you engage them in the conversation, they want to, like they would they're more likely to change a behavior or adapt a behavior in these areas than they are anywhere else.
Well, so I mean, you talk about complicated and you like complicated. And if we go political on this, that's going to be very complicated and probably very depressing, because I think Canadian politics is similar to the U.S. in that it's totally broken. So let's not go there.
Nope.
But let's talk about, hey, you and me as neighbors,
yep,
theoretically, although we're probably 1,000 miles or more away, as neighbors and as people, as individuals, or even as a leader of a company. Maybe you've got before and after story example, but what are we doing today that's typical versus what could we be doing differently as a behavioral change that's going to help us keep that ocean and help us improve that topsoil? Or is it simply awareness? I can't believe just awareness can't be enough. We have to act on it, right?
I think so I have this baseline belief that every dollar we spend is a vote for something, right? I believe that the money we spend is way more powerful as a voting mechanism than our actual votes in elections.
So you're saying I need to stop buying from Amazon?
That would probably be a pretty good thing. I think net, that's likely a good thing, right? They're not there, they're doing, that's a whole other conversation. Amazon's climate pledge, and I know the people on their climate team, they're actually there's a lot of really good people there that are working on it. But yeah, there's no question that shipping more crap around the world and more plastic is never a good thing. That's tough to take that side. But look, I do think that if you believe that the dollars we spend are votes, then, how we spend, just being smarter about it. I don't think it's right to ask people to sacrifice. One of the things we talk about as a business, I have 100 employees, right? A little more than that. We're constantly telling them look, you can't create momentum by stopping. So climate change and climate activism has been a lot of talk about sacrifice, and we just think it's the wrong conversation. I think we're better off asking people and showing people how to swap out and alter as opposed to stop. Don't go. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, you know what, man, David, you got to stop flying. It's terrible for the planet. That's an unreasonable ask. You've been flying for your whole life. It's one of our comforts. You're not going to stop. But if I told you, you could actually have meaningful impact if you threw less food out every year. That's real impact. That's an easier ask.
Well, it's interesting because I was almost going to dive in and start arguing with you that you don't make progress or advance something by stopping. But then you continued, and for once I kept my mouth shut. And you actually, by swapping, you're indicating that you stop something.
Yes, and began.
So potentially it stops that demise.
Yes.
That negativity, and you replace it with something else. So to use your example, David, you have to stop flying. You're flying on business trips, 2 times a month or whatever, just to throw a number out there. If you cut that back to 2 times a quarter and use Zoom more,
right,
then you could save money and you save this carbon footprint and you do this and you do that, and that could make a meaningful change.
Yeah.
But it's, so do you have any stats? I'm sure they've got to be all over your company websites and things that you guys do, but what are the stats that should alarm people to motivate them to do something or think differently?
You want a fun one? Do you know what the most wasted item in the world is? The most wasted food item in the world.
Wasted food item.
Yeah. What do you think?
I do not know. So I have to guess. So
take a shot.
The most wasted food item. So I don't eat a lot of foods that are out there these days, but hamburger buns.
You're close, actually. So it's bread. So here's the crazy thing. We throw out a third of the bread we make.
Wow.
Right. And so beyond that, I think as a population, so I think we actually waste in total, I believe 40% of the food produced doesn't get eaten.
Wait a minute. Slow that down, because I didn't catch it. We waste 40%
of the food produced. So food, the earth, we've invested resources, energy, water, time, money, and then 40% of it never actually makes it into the belly of somebody.
And is that in North America, or is that?
Yeah, globally, it's
Canada and the U.S. were both the poster children for
we're awful
for wasted food. Yeah. When you look at a restaurant,
oh God, yeah, restaurants are terrible. Yeah,
yeah.
So like grocery stores, I mean, there are. If you started digging around in this, it's like shocking how much food doesn't even make it off the farm, right? Where, and again, it's a complicated set of systems, like how we produce food, how we ship it, where is it sold, how we consume it. So like just in our homes, we produce a ton of waste in food that we don't eat, right? I'm sure like, it depends on the house, but like in my house, we're conscious of it. And I am still shocked about how much we throw out that we just forgot to eat. Like just stuff went into the fridge and never came out again.
Wow. We're actually pretty good about it because my wife and I grew up with the Clean Plate Club.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't get up from the dinner table unless my plate was clean. And so, Scottish background, with some thrift there. And my wife was in a similar household. And so we're pretty good.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've done to help ourselves is now we go to the store and we try really hard. I don't want to say that we're perfect. We try really hard to not buy anything that's not on our list.
Right. So we
go with a list on the phone.
Yep.
And we try to say no temptations.
So that is like a little bit of organization, a little bit of prep goes a long way.
Yeah.
Right. But I think like if somebody could do one thing in their life to help, like if you looked at the big, broad bucket of climate issues, I would say like how we treat food in society is probably the easiest and most impactful thing that every single person could do, which is like get more organized around food. Only buy what's on your list. Eat what's in your fridge. Don't let things die in the freezer, right? Stop sending food to landfills. Make sure it gets back to the ground. Like these are all things that are well within an individual's capability. So like our whole, thesis as a business is like, let's just lean into things that we know people can do. And that everybody can do, right? Like there's a reason why I'm not in selling solar panels on rooftops. Like that's a much harder ask of a lot of Americans. Like, it's very expensive to step your foot into that door. So it is I just think that like, it all comes back to awareness for sure, which I think you hit on, and that's like probably the hardest thing that we have to overcome as a business is like, how do you make people broadly aware that what they do can matter? And then how do you show them how they'll feel when they do those things? That's a very difficult thing to do as a company, right? Like at a large scale.
Well, it's also very interesting when you bring up food. So you're talking about quantity of food, not wasting food, that type of thing. And then food also, as you start to focus on that, many people could also focus on, am I eating the right type of food? What's this food doing to me? And that's a whole nother thing. And it goes from a minor thing, like my 15-year-old son, I took him to his basketball game last night and he had to take a break after the first quarter because he had pain in his chest. And I said to him later, I said, well, we kind of learned that maybe the cheese quesadilla before the basketball game is not the best choice.
Yeah.
How you those scrambled eggs I gave you last time worked out much better.
Yeah. Stop too late. It's like crap in, crap out, like it's amazing how much that principle applies to like life, business, everything. It's shocking. And then, I mean, the older you get, the more I think that just like, that's part of wisdom, I guess. But yes, we learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah. So without going down that rabbit trail, talk to the audience about let's get a little more specific. So you brought up the food is huge. So whether you want to speak to them as a leader or as an individual, what are some before and after stories of people that you've worked with or they're clients of your companies or whatever, so they can kind of understand a little bit more about what you guys are doing as an organization, maybe?
Yeah.
But where are people before and after they work with your organization? You got 100 people, so you're doing something.
Yeah. So we got about 100 employees. I think between Pela Case and Lomi, a little over 1.3, 1.4 million customers at this point. So it's like broad. We're global. Most of our business is in North America, but we definitely sell products around the world. I think like the food thing, it's where I'm particularly passionate right now, just because like Lomi is a really interesting solution to this. Lomi basically replaces your trash can, right? So like if you do have food you don't eat, you put it in Lomi. Lomi turns that into like a natural fertilizer. You can put it on your lawn.
Okay, how? So most of our audience is listeners.
Yes.
So give me a visual picture on how. So like I have a composter, the bin, and I flip it, whatever, put some stuff in there.
The tumbler.
Yeah. I got the tumbler routine. So talk to me about Lomi and how that is as good or a better solution to what I'm doing, because I'm not doing that great with what I'm doing. Although my sister-in-law is phenomenal with that process. But
yes, the traditional compost is very difficult. Backyard tumbler, or like maybe some people have chickens, where it's like, or like from composting, which is worms. So like Lomi is a kitchen countertop appliance, right? It's like the size of an espresso, like a small espresso machine. And when you go to like, think of it as fitting into your dishwasher rhythm. So when you scrape plates or clean up after dinner, you're going to load your dishwasher, like you scrape the plates and put the food scraps in Lomi, and you sort of start it at the same time you would start a dishwasher, which for most people is when they go to bed. And it just works. It works while you sleep, right? So like if, a gallon of food waste goes in, out comes this 80% less. And what comes out is, it looks like just regular old dirt or earth. Then you just take that, and just like what comes out of your compost, that can be used in your gardens, on your lawn. Like it's actually useful. It's very valuable.
All right, wait a minute. So I have a very tiny brain. So you have to give me more detail. So I've got a silver, stainless steel, whatever canister next to our sink. So like we're cutting apples or doing our vegetable. We do a huge vegetable saute thing. Yeah. We do the extra stuff. We put it in there. Really nothing happens. We take it out to the tumbler, whatever. And I'm not very good at making that happen. So tell me with Lomi, if I'm going to put that stuff in Lomi, you said it's like turning on the dishwasher. So I don't know all the pieces of the puzzle because I'm listening. So I push a button.
Yep.
And what happens?
Yeah. So what Lomi is going to do is basically break that down as fast as it can. So it's going to heat it up, runs like any compost, right? So it's like heat is an important part of it. Bacteria is an important part of it. Time. So we're not like, what Lomi is doing is not producing mature compost. That takes months, right? What we're doing is like, you're taking all the water out of the food. You're breaking it down to a place where it's usable. So it's organic matter that comes out high in nutrient density, like very high. So you would mix then what comes out of a Lomi, like 1/10. Like, so I think of a ratio 1 to 10, very similar to how you would use compost. You mix that with soil, or most people, they put it on their lawn. So Lomi is making a natural fertilizer out of your food waste, coffee grounds, all your choppings, and the difference between like a Lomi and a traditional compost would be number one, time and convenience. So like anybody could use a Lomi, like literally you just need a plug in a kitchen, plug it in. So if you're in an apartment, you don't have a tumbler in your apartment. That would be weird. So this is like way more accessible, way more scalable. And then really like just showing people how valuable their food is. Like, don't throw it away. It's not trash.
So how long does Lomi do that? So whether I have it a quarter full or a half full or all the way full or whatever. So And how long does it take for Lomi to do that process where then I can go take it and spread it out? And also, I mean, some of this stuff is kind of chunky. I mean, I don't hear it's telling me that Lomi is going to chop it up or anything like that.
There's like a small turnstile in the bucket that moves it around, right? You could put broccoli stock in there and it'll take care of it. Like, it's pretty wild to watch this thing work.
What do you mean take care of it? Does it actually break it down into small pieces?
Oh yeah, yeah. Breaks it down. Like what comes out is like it'll blow you away. It looks like dirt.
So I make my coffee with a paper filter.
Yeah,
Can I throw the paper filter in there in the coffee, the whole deal?
yeah.
And it's going to break that down?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Those brown like paper filters that you use, right? The little triangle. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can throw that with it. Yeah, like there's a whole list of stuff that can go in this thing, and it's like shortest cycle is about 4 hours, a little under 4 hours. Longest cycle about 18 hours, depending on what you're doing, right? So it's definitely designed like run it overnight. It's low power, so like even the longest cycle it uses less than a kilowatt hour of power, which like call that 8 cents on average in the US worth of electricity. So it's very low power.
Good stat. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just maximum convenience to do something that, as you said, is otherwise like work. You know?
Yeah, I mean, we're just not, have we kept the compost wet? Have we turned it?
Yeah.
Whatever. And we got all these bugs and, whatever. And it's a pain.
Yeah. Past the smell, all that stuff. So like, honestly, it's, if I had my way, everybody would do it the old way, but we can't. That's just an unreasonable ask of most people, right? To have chickens or, have backyard compost. So our idea was like, let's just make this process so easy that more and more people will do it. And the whole idea here, David, is just like keep food waste out of landfills. That is a terrible thing for the planet, right? That's like it produces methane, which is like 80 times worse than CO2. It's like lighter fluid on a gas fire. Like it's terrible. So we're just trying to solve that problem and make it so that people can help. Right. And at the same time, you get like lawn fertilizer and garden fertilizer without going to the store, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, and it's all organic and it's all set for you.
No chemicals. Right.
Yeah.
You're not going to have that weird 1 or 2 week period in the spring where you fertilize your lawn and your dog and your kids can't go on in because like they're going to catch something. You all that.
Miracle Grow or Scott's or whatever. So
this product has been is turned into like quite the movement, right? Like it's not even 2 years old, hundreds of thousands of customers, and like it continues to surprise us at how many people want to do something like this, right? Like when I first pitched this to our board, I was told, and like our investors, because we're venture backed, I was told like, this is the dumbest idea you've ever had. Like you should not do this. Because it took like millions of dollars of investment to like in R&D to make this machine. And I had to fight with my own board to get it, like to get approval to do it.
Well, it certainly sounds very interesting to me. And so that's Lomi.com, LOMI.com. Is that what it is?
Yep. LOMI.com. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Simple, straightforward. So it's very interesting. I mean, candidly, I'm going to check it out. I'm not afraid to. Is there a money back guarantee on the product?
Oh yeah. Of course.
Yeah, of course. So can't lose. And you have different sizes, I would assume.
Just one size right now.
Just one. Okay.
We will have multiple sizes coming. Making physical things, particularly hardware and software, is it's not easy. There's a lot easier products in the world to make than like things with moving parts and control boards. Particularly like this type of product, I think like it gets pretty hot. It gets up to about 200 and change degrees. So like it needs to be fire safe and like checked 1,000 ways to make sure that there's liability, right? So, developing sizes and all that stuff, that takes time and money.
So what's the vision, Matthew? Where do you go with this?
I would love to see this. Like, I believe that every home is going to have technology like this, just like every home has a dishwasher or a laundry machine, right? I think garbage, when I say garbage is trash, it's just under innovated. It represents an opportunity to like have a meaningful impact at pretty large scale very quickly, right? Like if you think of like I can put 140 million of these in every American home, an order of magnitude minimum faster than any municipality or company could build commercial compost facilities for the same amount of people.
Okay, so let's say we got 80% of American households.
Yep.
They've got a Lomi.
Yep.
Okay. What happens to the environment?
Oh gosh.
You got any projections on that? What happens with CO2? What happens with whatever? I mean, you got any numbers?
Yes, they're so big. So like food waste, okay, as a contributor to climate change is third. If it was a country, okay, it would be third next to the US and China.
Wow.
That's how big food waste is as a negative contributor to climate change. So that it's like, when I mean it's a big lever, it's a big lever.
So let's talk about how you're going to build a Lomi that's big enough for restaurants. So these could be required restaurants where there's a huge, talk about food waste.
So we definitely have technology we're working on for restaurants. It's a great market, like lots of waste. You know, a lot of that waste is out of their control. You know, depending on the restaurant, it could be plate scrapings. So like just food people don't eat. You know, some restaurants are very efficient in how they prep and use the ingredients. Some are not. It really depends on the style of restaurant. You know, mom and pop, large scale, like it's just such a variety. So I think there's tremendous room for impact in restaurant. Same with like offices, you know, small office, retail. There's just all of these little, the way to think about waste, David, is like streams, right? So like right now we're focused on in-home organic waste stream. That's one.
Yeah.
Organic waste out of a restaurant, like offices. All of these are different streams. So waste management, when I say it's complicated, it's because there are dozens and dozens and dozens of streams. And then every single municipality, like county in the US, handles it differently. So, you know, what we're trying to do is create some standards so like it can be rolled out and scaled up. And that way we're not dealing with local infrastructure, which is highly influenced by government and lobbyists and it's such a mess. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I wrote a post on my birthday on February 2nd. It was called Together We Will.
Yeah.
In our blog. And it was just, the only solution is we got to stop arguing about where we disagree and start focusing on where we do agree. And it seems like you've got something that's totally easy that, hey, we can agree on this.
Yes. And you know,
brainer.
I also have data that I could show you that we are pretty much on a user by user, right? Because we sell direct to consumer for the most part.
Yeah.
We almost run right down the middle. 50% of my customers are red, 50% are blue. Yeah. So I don't have this like, oh, it's just like left leaning or right leaning. No. We are almost evenly split, right? With a nice healthy mix of like libertarians in the middle. So it is wild at how this topic and this issue is something that like everybody seems to agree with.
Well, I'll tell you right now, you won't see it in the mainstream news, but it's been my belief for years. And I have 110% convinced that I'm right, that we have more in common.
Oh, yes.
Than what separates us.
Oh, yeah.
The media makes money by separating us. Politicians gain power and wealthy gain power by separating us. But if we would just come together, we can save this whole thing.
You know
we
what
can make it work.
Here's a shock. I completely agree. I saw this. I wish I know that. I wish I could give you the source and the exact number. But last year I saw this where something like 84% of Americans believe in climate change. Okay, they don't think, like there's this really weird notion out there, particularly in the climate world, where people on the right don't think it's real. And I'm like, that's actually not true. The data supports that. That's not true at all. There's disagreement on how we go about solving for it. Sure, that's a healthy place to have good conflict, right? Like, conflict isn't bad.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It is. I fully agree with you that we have way more in common than the media is ever going to let us know, right? Because that's completely counter their business model. Their incentives don't align with doing that. And And I think that if you just proceed with that, so like even in my own company, right? Like 100 and some employees, we've different political spectrum here. It's not all just one, right? Even my own co-founders and I have like very different political beliefs, but we treat that as a place to like meet and have healthy discord and healthy conflict. And out of that comes progress. It's not dogma. Like,
well, if we all thought the same way, we wouldn't get things done.
I totally. So, and that is like, that for us, like culturally, that's foundational, right? We really like the idea here of like creative abrasion, right? That like we beat ideas up, not people and not belief systems. And that like ultimately that's why we move quickly. That's how we get progress. That's where progress comes from.
Yeah. No. So, all right. I'm just getting rolling because you and I could keep this going. So I'm going to do something I don't typically do, but I'm going to tell the audience here, and I'm going to recommend that you look at lomi.com, LOMI.com. And I'm going to commit to you that unless I see something alarming or that something that just doesn't add up with our conversation, I'm going to buy one. Money back guarantee. I got nothing to lose. Yeah, I'm going to buy one. And I want to encourage the audience to seriously consider this. What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
And do a little something for the planet. And it's good for your family. It's good for everybody. And
have young kids. So like this is our win. So if your audience is mostly business owners, right? One of the biggest wins that we've had with adoption of the product has been young kids. So like think 5 to 10. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're learning about this stuff in a lot of schools now. Like they learn about where food comes from, agriculture. Yeah. So young kids have turned out to be like our best ambassadors. And, they're the ones that ultimately so like most parents, like I have a 7-year-old daughter, getting her to do chores is like not the easiest thing in the world. She's got a good life. Why would she do chores?
Yeah.
But she freaking like, they love feeding Lomi. It's like a pet that they're allowed to give food to now. And for parents, it's turned out like, so for the family unit, right? This has turned out to be something that like parents and kids can do together. It's a learning moment for the kids. They find it entertaining. Like it actually, like all of that kind of surprised us, which, as an entrepreneur, I'm like, this is my third company now. And more than that, fourth or fifth. It's my like third good one. It's amazing what surprises you, right? Like you go in with options and you think like, this is how it's going to work. This is where our customer is. And then like, this was one of those things where like, oh my God, it's kids. Kids love this thing. And that I would have never predicted.
But I think it's great. And I think a lot of our teenagers are frustrated that they feel like there's no solutions between all the negativity in the media and TikTok and whatever it might be.
Divide there too, right?
Yeah. And so
you see that.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to come together and say, hey, let's do this and focus on the food waste and how can we make it less? But when we've got it, we can turn it into something positive. And where can we put this? Whether we put it on the lawn, we bury it in the backyard, whatever. But we need this for the soil. We need it for survival. So yes. I think it's great. So closing thoughts, you have any for the audience or want to direct them somewhere else besides Lomi.com?
If like I write a lot on like what I write a lot, publish a lot on like this sort of journey and what it's like to be a leader right now, building companies. I'm just like, I'm a nerd when it comes to like competitive strategy and all this stuff. So if you want to like just read more of how I think, I'm on Twitter, like Bertulli, or you just go to like my website, which is mattbertulli.com, and you can read all about like everything I'm working on. But yeah, a lot of my thinking, just go to Twitter and I share a ton.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Matthew, so much for being on the show. This has been great. And I'm very sincere. I could continue the conversation all day if you put up with me.
It's a lot of fun.
It's been fun.
Yeah. Appreciate the time, David.
Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you participating in the podcast. If you have any thoughts, ideas, comments, give us a rating. We'd love to hear any feedback. And really hope you enjoyed the show with Matthew, sponsored by Habitly.com. I mentioned that you can get 7 days free. Go check out a course. Okay. Set a goal and achieve that goal. We teach that. Become a better leader, all on habitly.com. 7 days free. You can't go wrong. But if you really enjoyed this podcast, please rate this. I encourage you, send this podcast out to other people. This message about being better with our environment is important for us all. And stay tuned. We have more great guests coming. Goodbye for now.